Yo, Raider Nation, what is good, man? We have a great show lined up for you guys. We're just going to sit down, have some conversation about the silver and black, talk about some matchups with the Las Vegas Raiders and the New Orleans Saints. We're going to be talking about rumors, trade deadline, and really, we're just going to be chopping it up with the nation, addressing all the questions that you guys may have for us. So without further ado, let me acknowledge some of the chat. Digital Perez in the building. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you for pulling up. Van City says, yo, 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 Ray, my dog. What's good, my brother? What is going on, Van? I hope your wife is doing good. Hey, man, my wife she's got a belly on her now, so it's really coming fast. So the baby will be here in February. I don't know when your little ones do. Remind me in the chat, and I'll address that. Richard Lyon says, Ray, salute my brother. Van City, salute Prezi. Digital Press says, salute chat, man. So we're gonna let people pull up. I'm gonna introduce my good friend Pharaoh NFL, and we're just gonna introduce the show, man. So Pharaoh, what's going on, Ray?
What's going on, man? How you doing, man? How's everybody doing? Salute to the chat, salute to the nation. I appreciate everybody pulling up, man. We got something to talk about, man. Tomorrow's game day. It's gonna be an early morning start for everybody on the West Coast. Obviously, on the East Coast, on the other side of the country. Obviously, Ray, you out there getting the afternoon game, earlier game. So
Oh
that's
yeah, 1 o'clock, boy.
you
That's
know what I
how I
mean.
like it.
Do you like the earlier games?
No, I don't. No, that was cap. So dude, I'm a primetime guy. I love all eyes on our team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do like those 425 games. Gives me an opportunity to see what's going on, maybe some moving and shaking in the AFC at those 1 o'clock games, and really lays out the blueprint for those 425, 405 games. So to me, though, at the same time, dude, I don't really care as long as the Raiders are playing football. I'll tune in.
Nah, I feel you. I mean, to be honest with you, growing up watching Raider football, like I couldn't wait. So like I
I
love
know.
morning games. I was like, oh, thank God I'm watching this pregame and then it's football and it's basically the Raiders playing. That's how I looked at it. I'm like, I can't wait to watch the game. But I didn't mind the primetime games. It's just the other side to it is that you had to wait for the game. Like if it was a Monday night game and all that football playing on Sunday, you had to wait till Monday. Or, whether it's the Sunday night game, you had to wait all day for that game. And, I don't mind the primetime games, but to be honest with you, I want the game as soon as possible to keep real with you.
No, yeah, dude, Mondays are almost the worst because like it is, but it isn't because I'm working all day. I know everybody else has already played, and I know like, man, it's Monday, it's the start of the work week. But man, when I get home tonight, I get to tune in, watch my team play.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. But really, I'm really looking forward to this matchup tomorrow. I think as the Raiders stack together wins, each game starts just to become bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And I say what you want. Both teams have 2 wins, but it's a huge, huge game for each team this Sunday. So I mean,
Right.
either way you look at it, you could have 2 wins, and it's still a pivotal moment in the season. At week 8, this is probably the biggest game of the year for us so far.
Man, every game is the biggest
It
game of
is.
the year.
As soon as you hit the next
Every
week, it's the
every
biggest
every
game.
game, but I understand where you're coming from. I feel like at the end of the day, we started off the season real slow, and now we the Raiders put themselves in a situation where like now the room for error is dwindling down. Like they don't have any room for error. Like so, I think at the end of the day, like they got to take it week by week, every game. They can't focus. They can't look ahead. They got to focus on the Saints. It's gonna be a big game tomorrow. It's gonna be a high scoring game, in my opinion. It's gonna be an exciting game too. I kind of like where when I see matchups where I feel like the Raiders can win on offense. Derek Carr, you know what I mean? I think that the Saints are going to try to clamp down and stop that run game. So that means there's going to be one-on-one opportunities for some of the Raiders receivers. Devontae Adams. Like if you've seen the thumbnail that we put out,
Mhm.
is Devontae Adams going to have a flu game classic?
Oh, he's
Is
going to, bro. He's gonna
you,
ball out.
you know what I mean? But I'm sure the Saints are going to be trying. They're going to try to take away Devontae at times. You know what I mean? Because he's just that premier guy. But that's where other guys can step up. You know what I mean? Darren Waller is he? It sounds. Will be this? Will this be the game that we finally see Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow in the game? I don't think we've seen them play in a game since week 2,
Yeah, it's week 2.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when Renfrow went out.
Yep.
So we haven't seen them in a while. So if they can play together, that's that much better because now they're able to build some chemistry. Derek Carr has all his weapons at his disposal, and we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna talk all football. I mean, this is gonna be a chill conversation. We just chopping it up. We want to hear from the chat, the nation. What do y'all think before the game? I see Sean Johnson. You got a comment. You want to read that up?
Yep, yep. We need Roquan Smith and defensive tackle Deron Payne, but this is a pipe dream. Look, Roquan. yeah, to go out there and get these guys, you're going to have to give up some draft capital. Now, Deron Payne, you could probably get away with a third and a fourth,
Mm-hmm.
maybe give away a third. Um, I do think those picks 1 through 3 are pretty crucial to this organization, especially because their first offseason, they didn't have a first and a second round draft pick. So I think that's going to be pretty crucial. Roquan Smith, though, hey, Pharaoh, would you give up a second round draft pick to go get Roquan?
Second round, third rounder. Give me a third because he does have an expiring contract. Oh man, I do want Roquan. That out of that list right there, I feel like Roquan is the better player.
Roquan is a game changer for our defense.
We need game changers. I know
Yeah.
that D tackle is a position of need pass rusher, but if you have a game changer and a position of need, I'm taking a game changer all the way because on defense we have one game changer, and that's Max Crosby. If we can add another, that makes our defense that much better. You know what I mean? And be honest with you, if we go after a guy, if we were able to get a Roquan, that means that a guy like Perriman's not coming back.
No. And
This
honestly, if you go out and get a Roquan, I'm okay with Perryman not coming back. Like, I'm cool with that.
I'm not mad at that
I
either.
know that
We get
might
one of the
say,
best inside linebackers in the league who can
yeah,
play the pass and the run. Come on.
yeah. No, he's a key cog of the defense, and I think it'd be a really good piece to buid around. If I'm being completely honest, like if you can go out there get a Roquan, and maybe there is I believe Sanjeet said it on Raid's live show. Justin Hargraves, I think, Eagles defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I believe that's his name, right? I believe that's his name. I'll have to look, but he's an
Yeah.
interior defensive tackle. I believe 2 years ago, he had like 9 sacks, 10 sacks, and I'll pull up the numbers here in a second so I don't get those things wrong. But
Okay.
there is depth if you want to look him up. I believe it is Justin Hargrave or something like that. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, a guy who's able to have a pass rush. He is with the Eagles. I think that you go out there and grab a guy like that, and you're really able to create a disruptive key hog piece without having to get involved with all the big names. Maybe you don't have to go out and give up a second round pick, a first round draft pick, maybe a third, and some change. We'll go out there and get it. Also, another guy that's in a contract year. But if you can go out there and get a key cog like a pass rushing defensive tackle, which is a really, really rare commodity in the National Football League, then you start to build around this defense. It's got 2 premier edge rushers, and I know we can
Mhm.
say what we want about Chandler Jones. He's coming along. I would say to be patient, as much as we don't like to hear that. Don't necessarily, you guys, as people who watch film, don't necessarily just glare your eyes over to the one statistical category in sacks. There's a lot of stuff that goes into play into that category, and you can make the argument that because Chandler has been on the opposite side of Max Crosby, that Max Crosby's numbers have also inflated because Chandler's doing a lot of unique stuff over there, specifically setting a very good edge and taking on the best left tackles in the league, really.
Doing
So
dirty work.
yeah, he's doing a lot of dirty work that goes unnoticed, and I know everybody wants to quickly jump over to that sack category, but you just be patient. You know what I mean? He's the type of guy that could get 4 in a game. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he could have 2 or 3 games where he has multiple sacks, and then those numbers look a little bit better. And then people who don't watch the Raiders and don't watch film, they'd be like, "Oh, Chandler Jones is having a great season," because their eyes go straight to the sack category. So I would be patient.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that like we have seen some improvement from Chandler Jones. Now, that being said, I'm still kind of maybe I need to because I've heard Ray talk about, and he made a good point about how like the investment rate of tape. He made a good point about the investments in the defense are not as much compared to the offense, and
No,
that's
yeah, we brought that up on our show too with Raid is I think we're like 30th in the National Football League as far as investments on the defense, and we're a top 5 as investing in on the offense.
so yeah, we kind of have to like, all right, temper, like we have to control our expectations of this defense because the talent is not there. But that being said, the other side to it is that Dave Z, and I brought this up, I think it was on somebody's live. I brought up that at the end of the day, like the Raiders, they had a plan to attack this offseason. And their plan, as we now know, we're literally in the middle of the season, was to double down on the offense and like literally let some of the young players on defense take a bigger role, let them develop. And some of those young players haven't stepped up. You know what I mean? They haven't
Yeah.
stepped up. A guy like Morig, you know what I mean, hasn't take that next step. He had, whether it's a new defensive system, is he healthy, 100% healthy, coming back from a hip injury? You know what I mean? That, we don't know for 100%, for a fact, but at the end of the day, like, they haven't stepped up. Divine Diablo is terrible in coverage. Like, he's a liability at this point. Like, and he's not that great against the run either. Like, I mean, he's a solid run defender, but I'm not like not enough to where you would put him on the field a lot. You know what I mean? Just because his pass defense is so bad. Like, literally, I don't know. Has he forced an incompletion this year?
Who,
I don't know
Divine?
if he had. I don't
Divine?
know. The last
No.
time I checked, it was just like they're 10 for 10.
Yeah,
I forgot
no.
the last. It was like
Jayon
probably
Brown's playing, and he let up every single reception thrown his way. Like, it was literally 15 of 15 that he let up. So, look, the defense is in an interesting situation, and I'm going to address the chat after I make this point, but I think that this offseason, you're really going to just see a complete offseason dedicated to building up this defense because you're going to lose a lot of guys. A lot of these guys are one-year rentals. So are you going to go out there and re-sign a Rock Ya-Sin, who has honestly outplayed his contract? Can you go out there and maybe get him on a 3-year, $27 million, 3-year, $30 million deal and really play him up like $9 to $10 million a year, and to have a guy to pair with Nate Hobbs, and maybe you can start building internally on the defensive side of the football. Maybe go use your first round draft pick to go get a premier sideline to sideline linebacker, and use some money in free agency to go out there and get a pass rusher. A lot of these guys that we're talking about to go out and make trades for, they're on 1-year deals. And let's be honest, if they're on the trade block and teams are looking to move them, chances are they're not going to be re-signed to those big deals. So you're going to have an opportunity to sign them in free agency and not give up the draft capital that you have to give up right now. So with the Raiders having 13 draft picks, 14 draft picks, I say that you stay patient and you have a real opportunity to go out there and invest heavily on the defensive side of the football and get guys that fit Patrick Graham's scheme. This year he's dealing with a lot of Gus Bradley and mixed with his guys. So there is a catch-22, but I do expect next season the Raiders are going to allocate a ton of resources to go and build a really good defense.
Also, another thing too is that Roquan does, if he gets traded, if he comes to the Raiders, for example, he would come with a contract extension. He
A
has
big
to.
one. A
You
big
know what I
one.
mean? It would have to, because you can't make that trade. You can't give up, let's say, you mentioned a second round pick. You know what I mean? That's a little too rich for my blood. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I want to give up a second round pick, because I agree with some of these like NFL guys. Like, hey, draft picks are gold.
Oh, they
You know what
are.
I mean? You're getting talent on cheap contracts, so that's what you're trading. I know Roquan is a great player. But second round pick, I'm not sure if I would do that. But that being said, if you were to do that, it has to come with a contract extension. He's a free agent at the end of the season, so that's another thing to look at and keep an eye on. Even Jack Conklin, that a right tackle, he's a free agent at the end of the season. That's why, Dave Z, he probably he's thinking about all these trade opportunities, but he's like, should I trade for a guy that I could just sign after the season and
And
not
I
give
think
up?
that if they wanted to go get Jack Conklin, I don't think it's going to be very expensive. I really don't. I think you could maybe give up a fourth and a fifth, maybe, and go out there and make that happen. And then you're going to get a 1-year rental and then have the opportunity to re-sign him. But if you make that trade, then obviously they're going to allocate that money to go out there and re-sign him. Now, if they go and get a right tackle like that, and they go to extend him for like 2 years or whatever the case may be, say it is Jack Conklin and they go out and make that trade happen, I'd be okay with that, using some money to allocate to the right tackle position moving forward, and it gives Thayer Mumford some time to develop on the right side. He doesn't have to go out there right away and compete. He can continue to slowly progress, and then when Jack Conklin's contract's up, Thayer should be along just fine in this offensive scheme, and you can go and plug him in. I just don't think Thayer's ready, but a guy like Jack Conklin, I think he'd be a really good fit in this Raiders offense. And I know everybody's going to say, hey, don't go make a move on the offensive side of the football when you got so many issues on the defense. But the more that if we can shore up a few holes on this offense, now I'm not saying that the offense is a drastic need. We've already talked about that, till we're blue in the face over here on this channel. But if you can really solidify that right tackle position now and have a plan to re-sign them in place, then what I just alluded to earlier, this whole next offseason, you can just allocate a ton of resources to the defensive side of the football and be confident with what you have on the offense. So that's just my take. But hey, let's get into these comments, man. You guys are chopping it up. 27 of you guys in the building. There should be 27 likes. We don't ask a penny from you guys. We appreciate all the love and support that you guys have shown the channel. 27 likes, that should be our goal. Let people know where you are tonight. The more that you like this video, the more it gets tapped into the YouTube algorithm, the more people that flood in, and it makes your experience that much better. So, Raider Nation, go over there and make a play on the like button.
Facts, 100%, man. Daniel Kim says the NFL beat writer is super huge. Conklin guy. Thoughts? I mentioned on his live signing Conklin and making Mumford our new swing tackle. Hey, at the end of the day, like and I'm glad he said that comment, because I was actually thinking about it when he was talking, was the fact that at the end of the day, if some of you guys are questioning why are the Raiders trying to go for the right tackle, we're running the ball so well, we don't need to do this. O-line is playing solid. We need a D tackle. At the end of the day, they're still rotating offensive tackles. That's what they're still doing. You know what I mean? A seventh round pick in Thyre Munford maybe has the future, but right now, pass blocking is not his forte. It's not his strength right now. It's still a developing. It's the developing part of his game. So he's not all the way there. Run blocking though, that's where he kind of shines, and he's been shining. As you can see, ask Josh Jacobs with all these big holes that he's been running through. But at the end of the day, like if we can get someone that can solidify that right side with Conklin, that's a huge, huge upgrade. Huge upgrade. Then you could slowly but surely, replace, a guy like Conklin down the road with a Thyre Munford. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You don't have to force them into action, which they're doing right now, because that's what they have to do now.
And look at where they drafted Dylan Parham, and look at how many draft picks we have late in the draft. You're telling me that with the whole offseason, with this coaching staff, this front office, these scouts, that we can't go out and find another guard to maybe replace an Alex Bars, next season. Alex Bars is playing pretty good football right now, especially when it comes to smash mouth football. So kudos to Alex Bars, but however, he's not going to be your long-term option. So you're going to have the ability late in the draft, maybe those fourth round areas, third round areas as well, to go out there and really give it a quality guard to plug and play into the scheme. Sean says, just seen an interesting stat. New Orleans has the worst turnover margin in the league at -10. We have to capitalize on that. We talked about it in our breakdowns of matchups. We're having to create turnovers on the defensive side of the football in this game. This is an explosive offense that we're going up against. I mean, say what you want about the quarterback position, but they have talent at all levels of this offense. So you have to be on your P's and Q's, and you have to find a way to come up and make good tackling, something the Raiders have shown this season. They're actually a really good tackling football team, but we have to also get our hands on the football. How do you feel about that, Pharaoh?
Well, but that's also a stat where we struggle into as well. I think it's improved though. We haven't been turning the ball over a lot, but also we haven't been taking the ball away. You know what I mean? But that being said, we did see a pick six. We're going in the right direction. I want to see more of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, we can put out a guy like we have to give Duron Harmon some more PT out there, and I think we've seen that. Last game we've seen him out there a little bit more than usual, because the guy's a playmaker, and he's part of. And the reason why I bring him up is because he's the guy that's forcing the turnovers. Let's be honest, like he has most of the Raiders' turnovers.
Oh, and his snap count has definitely gone up. Like they know, they realize in big, like late in games, Duron Harmon's out there working. You know what I mean?
Hey man, like I'm just, you can't deny it though. You can't deny it. There's no one on defense forcing fumbles, and he's literally single-handedly. Yeah, go ahead.
He reminds me of when we got Reggie Nelson. He's that guy on the back end, aging veteran safety, big and he might not play great throughout the whole consistency of a whole game.
Yeah.
But in those big time moments, he finds a way to be a playmaker and get his hands on the football. Duron Harmon kind of reminds me of that Reggie Nelson role.
Veteran savviness. Like he got a lot of experience.
Right.
I mean, he did play. He's familiar with the Patriot system, and I wish I posted it. And I'm gonna post it soon. But Duron Harmon actually had like a nice little quote this week about how the Raiders defense is still developing. They still need to. It's a multiple defense. There's so many so much responsibility that players have on defense. They got to remember all types of things, and that. Let's talk about Morik. You know what I mean? A guy that literally. We mentioned that, he hasn't really made a play, but you were telling me, before the show started, like, hey man, this guy, he's probably not 100% healthy.
No, I don't think he's 100% healthy, and we got to give a shout out to Tape Don't Lie. I don't really watch much Raiders content, but they're ones that I have a huge high respect for, a high regard for.
Facts,
Um,
facts,
and
100%.
me and Pharaoh are actually really big on their channel, so everybody go over there and subscribe to them. But they pointed out something that I didn't necessarily see in film, and I'm willing to go out here and say that. Now I was watching film, and I did notice Trayvon Merrick was lined up also on outside corner. They would have him lined up in the nickel, but they pointed out and alluded using film that Trayvon Merrick's hips aren't necessarily 100% all the way. Especially when it came to the coverage of the depth of his coverage, where he was lining up on the back end, specifically in split high safety concepts. Uh, he's lining up 5 to 10 yards behind Deron Harmon, which tells you and alludes you, especially when he's playing with flat hips, that he's afraid to open them up. So I'd imagine that he's still dealing with a hip. My criticism on Trayvon Merrick, look, he did let up a big play to the tight end last week, struggled in the red zone against Kansas City, but that was also ultimately a team's issue, especially when you're doubling Kelsey and both guys fail at their job. That goes to coaching, execution, not just Trayvon Merrick. So I believe we were a little bit harsh on that aspect. But look, Trayvon Merrick is out there playing injured. And I think majority of the time that you don't see him and you're not critiquing him, he's actually doing a really good job. He's asked to do a lot more in this defensive scheme. He's lined up, like I said, outside, playing a defensive back role. He's lined up in the slot. He's lined up split high. He's lined up single high. I mean, the dude is all over the place. So I would be patient, let his body heal. And when he gets healed later on in the year, let's see if Trayvon Merrick can't turn into that safety that we're talking about when he really settles into this defense and gets comfortable and start creating turnovers with Deron Harmon.
I agree. I agree. But the reason why I brought it up as far as a guy that Morick hasn't taken the next step is because it's it's obviously it's a glaring weakness. You know what I mean? Our safety position is kind of like you could say Abrams is having a solid year so far. You know what I mean? They're asking him to do a
He's
lot. He's
having the
kind of
best year that he's had since being a Raider. That's for sure.
yeah, because you're not seeing a whole lot of mistakes.
No, but they're
And
not putting him in those situations like former coaching staff has. You know what I mean?
boom,
Like,
boom.
yeah.
Because if you guys remember when we played the Titans, they made it a point to attack Abram, and it worked.
Yep.
And that was probably Abram's worst game was against the Titans.
And that's
So
when Patrick
he's
Graham's like, nah, no more.
yeah,
No more.
exactly. So yeah, I definitely agree with Morrick. I think he needs some time to heal. He needs some time in the system. I'm not saying give up on him, but I'm just saying that's part of the struggles of this Raiders defense is the fact that young guys like Morrick hasn't been able to shine. Devon Diablo is another guy. You know what I mean? Kuntz, where you at, man? We need to see you. I mean, hopefully he can get on the field. Hopefully he can do it on practice. Hopefully he can win his coaching staff over. I don't know if he has. That's why he's probably not getting a lot of PT. Uh, you know, we
Kuntz is a tough one for me because this offseason I did a ton of film study on the plays that he was playing last season. And
mhm.
then we got into the preseason and we got a ton of Malcolm Kuntz. So it gave me more than enough film to go and sit down and watch. And I was so high on what Malcolm Kuntz could actually bring to this defense. And it's like we've gotten to the regular season and we just have not been able to see Malcolm Kuntz get on the field. So you have to bring into question, like, is this a guy that the Raiders are going to use moving forward as a foundational piece? As a even like at this point you can bring up the question, like, is this guy even the situational pass rusher, because
Yeah.
they haven't really been subbing out these defensive ends. Last game they did more so than they typically did up until this point. But at what point, where is Malcolm Kuntz? Divine Diablo, is he going to be involved in the future? I think he's a really good tackler, but as far as coverage, no. You know what I mean? Jayon Brown, he's not going to be here next year. Denzel Perryman, you can bring up the question, hey, is he going to be here next year? Are you willing to go out there and pay him $5 million a year? I don't know. You know what I mean? Van City's got a big take here right now, though. He says, we have to re-sign Lakia Sin. That's more of an important signing than Josh Jacobs. How do you feel about that?
He said that's more. Say that again. He said we
Lakia,
have to okay. We have to
yeah.
re-sign Lock Sin. That's more of important. You know what? I mean, you're not lying because at the end of the day, we don't like most of our secondaries is on 1 year deals, other than Nate Hobbs. But I want to make. I don't want to give him a huge contract though. Yeah, Rocky Singh, he has played solid this year, but he can be beat. as we seen last week. You know what I mean? He had a lot of completions against him. But that being said, yeah, I definitely am all for uh, Rock Ya Sin City, whatever you want to call him. I'm all for bringing him back, but I'm not sure if he's a number one corner. Is he a number one corner in your
I will
eyes?
say this in man coverage, absolutely. He's
Mm,
among the top 7 to 8 CBs right now when it comes to man coverage. When it comes to
yeah.
zone coverage, however, not so much. But if I here's my question: if you can go out here and re-sign Rock Yassin to say $9 million a year, right,
Hmm.
or that $10 million a year mark, which really isn't that much for the going rate today at the defensive back position, especially somebody who's there. What's really Farrell going to hurt him, in my opinion, is his ability to not create turnovers. Like if Rock Yassin went out here and had like 4 interceptions at the end of the year, he's going to get a big extension.
I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you a link. I'm gonna try to send you that Jerron Harmon because he touched on. It was actually a good quote.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to post it, but time is an issue, man. I've been busy, but he got into the fact that like how this Raider defense is still learning. It's a work in progress. You can't play just man to man. You got to play zone, and he was alluding to like how the defense is still kind of getting used to playing all these multiple defense, all these defensive schemes, all these everybody has a responsibility. He says he made a good point. He says this defense has to be loud.
Mm.
When they're on the field, they have to be loud. Everybody has to be talking because there's so many adjustments within the game. You know what I mean? So many
There's so many
matchup.
moving parts. There's
Ex-
so much going on in the like, and I was addressing that earlier in the year on this live of like Patrick Graham's communication on the back end of these guys are so complex that I worried at the beginning of the season. I was saying, look, there's a lot of communication and a lot of rapport that these guys have to develop with each other, especially in Patrick Graham's defense, because the communication and the discipline and where you're supposed to be at this given hiding coverages. I mean, making sure when you're dropping back, showing blitz, and when you go to drop back, making sure that the quarterback's eyes aren't on you as he's watching you pull back. There's so many little intricate aspects to this defense that you've
Mhm.
got to nail perfectly. That it comes with time. So, to be honest with you, is it more important than Josh Jacobs? That I mean, I'm not under the impression that you're going to go out here and replace Josh Jacobs really easily. I don't think you're going to do that. I think Josh Jacobs is just on another level this season.
Yeah.
And to plug and play somebody, you're just not going to get the same results. I don't think. Josh is on a mission this year, but no, I would like to re-sign Rock Yassin. It's got to be reasonable and it's got to be the right price because he's really specific. He's really primarily a man coverage outside corner, and he doesn't create a lot of turnovers, and he's not very good in man coverage. So it's got to be for the right price. But no, I do like Rock Yassin. When he's asked to do those things, he plays really good.
Facts 100%. And I didn't address that last part of that question. Would I do it over Josh Jacobs? Man, the way Josh Jacobs is playing, bro, like he's playing like the top 3 and maybe by the end of the year could be the best running back. Who knows if he keeps this up? If he keeps this up, because he could easily get that number 1. Because if you think about it, he's number 3 in rushing, and I keep bringing this up. He's number 3 in rushing, but everybody has played one more game than him.
Mm,
So if
yeah.
he continues to put up these numbers, he could easily lead the league in rushing, and as well as he's also giving you a lot as far as touchdowns too. And he kind of single handedly he's carrying the offense on their back right now. And you gotta think about that. And when you see a clip of Josh Jacobs leaving the field and Dave Z is the first guy to see him and give him a big hug, you got to believe that Dave Z is thinking about like, hey, we can't let this guy go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not fair to Zamir White. You know what I mean? We haven't seen enough of him, and that's why you kind of I don't know if you brought it up or I forgot who I was talking about. Like we need to see more of the other running backs. We need to incorporate them because we do want to protect Josh Jacobs as well. But I think Josh Jacobs is like a guy that you have to bring back because like when we see other running backs in the game, it's like a big drop off, huge drop off.
Huge. Like, and I know everybody was like, Zamir White's going to be that replacement for Josh Jacobs, and that's not necessarily right away. That's not going to be the case. They're two I know that they're power back runners, but their styles are just so different. Josh has elite vision. He has an elite ability to
Sh-
create cutbacks, to find the
Shifty.
holes in the defense. He's shifty. He's explosive. Like he can come to the line of scrimmage, running 70%, and then boom, explode into that next gear and really turn up field. Now he doesn't necessarily have breakaway speed, but it's his vision inside the game inside of the game. That's where Josh Jacobs excels among other guys.
And shout out to Bucky Brooks. He's a longtime NFL guy, NFL scout. I think he was a former Raider too as well. Played the cornerback position. He had a good tweet. I wish I could pull it up, but he basically I posted it on my social. If you guys follow me, I posted it on my story. And what he was talking about was how a lot of the defenses this year they're playing too high safety, a lot
Right.
of too high safeties, and that's pretty much been the defense's answers to the modern passing game. That being said, offensives, coordinators, their answer to that has been like, okay, you're going to run too high safety. That means it's going to be a light box. That means it's going to be a lot of DBs that can't tackle, and we're gonna run on them. And we've seen that with multiple teams, including the Raiders.
And what's interesting is it's funny how the NFL will evolve and it turned into this super pass heavy 45 passing attempts, the Mahomes, the Josh Allens of the world. Now those guys are going to have to they're going to have to adjust to what's going on in the NFL. And what it does, Pharaoh, is it's evened out the playing field this year. And we're seeing it across the scores across the entire league. As a lot of these guys were so fundamental on stopping the pass in the last few years that, like you
Yeah,
just alluded to, they're playing that double high. Now that you have a lot of these light boxed, you're seeing a lot of old school football come back. You're starting to see a lot of power running, a lot of just bully football inside the trenches. And what
yeah,
it's doing is it's bringing those franchise quarterbacks down to playing within the realm of all these guys like a Derek Carr. You know what I mean? The Ryan Tannehills of the world, those guys that are in that 10 to 15 range. That's why they're able to go out there and find success against these premier franchise quarterbacks because the offensive and defensive play calling has switched up. So, no, I love that aspect of breaking it down that way.
yep.
Luis Lopez says, I got a question. How much is JJ's success in the run game all him and not really our run scheme? I know vision plays a part. I guess my question is, can we afford not to pay JJ and plug in a Zeus and a Brandon Bolden?
Okay. See, this is the thing. This is why we got to incorporate Zeus. We got to incorporate Zamir White. We need to see what we have in him. We got to figure that out. And I'm not saying that we're not going to give the ball to Josh Jacobs. Obviously, he's going to get his normal share of carries, but somehow, someway, we got to sprinkle him a little bit more. 3 carries here, 4 carries here, 5 carries here. We need to get him going. We need to see what type of running back he is. From what I can see, he's not the type of running back where he's going to make a guy miss like a Josh Jacobs. He's a guy that needs good blocking, in my opinion. But does he have the other physical aspects that maybe a Josh Jacobs doesn't have, aka breakaway speed? Yes, he does. Does he have power? Yes, he does. But I think he's a different type of back where you have to have a good O line for him. I'm not sure if he's a guy that you can have like an okay O line. You could stuff him in the backfield compared to Josh Jacobs, where he's making guys miss, and then he's at least getting something out of nothing. And we've seen Josh Jacobs do that this year. So that's why I'm kind of like reserving my judgment on Zamir White. But from how I've seen him run the ball, just watching him, like watching his college games or some of his carries even in the preseason, it's like you have to block for him. If you guys remember a guy like Darren McFadden, you got to have like solid blocking in front of him. But when you give him good blocking, look out, look out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we still don't know for sure what Zamir White is at this point.
And you guys, vision is something that you're given. Like you have that is a trait to a running back position. Like that's not something that every running back has is elite vision that Josh Jacobs has. Josh Jacobs has this ability, man, to just find lanes deep into the play. And that's what's unique and special about him. Zamir White, I don't necessarily see that yet, but I think Zamir White's development is also going to be over the course of the next, 2 years. I think especially this offseason, I know a lot of people might not want to see it, but if Josh Jacobs does go to free agency, and I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, I do expect the Raiders to franchise tag Josh Jacobs at the end of the year, and you're probably going to pay him $8 to $9 million. Which to me, I'm completely okay with paying $8 million for a Josh Jacobs on a 1-year rental. I think he's just too valuable to this offense, especially if you can go out there and create a good defense. Can you imagine if the Raiders has a legit top 10 defense? I'm talking bookend pass rushings, interior pass rushing, sideline to sideline linebacker, good in coverage, and then you have a Josh Jacobs lined up.
I haven't seen a good defense in a long time in the
And I
silver and
want
black.
that, and I don't think you go out and give up on Josh Jacobs. I think you go out there and franchise tag him. But to say is Josh Jacobs' success in the run game all him and not really our run scheme, it goes hand in hand. Our run scheme has helped Josh Jacobs mightily. And we also alluded to that at the beginning of the year over here. We said that this switch to the power gap scheme is going to benefit Josh Jacobs mightily from the zone blocking scheme. When you have guys that are in that zone blocking scheme and say 3 of the 5 are a fit, you start to have a lot of leaky holes in zone blocking, especially outside stretch zone runs where guys are shooting gaps because there's guys who just don't fit that scheme and system. And that's a lot on Tom Cable. That's a lot of failing on his aspect of not switching up his scheme and system to really go towards the strength of the players. Now, we did see him sprinkle in power gap running last season. And when they did, Josh Jacobs, guess what? Found success. Big surprise. So I thought it was big for Carmen Brasillo to go in here, really commit to the power gap scheme, not give up on it and not shy away from it. But week after week after week, especially those first 3 weeks, you could have kind of like tossed that in the bag and moved on. He stuck with it. And now we're seeing the fruits of sticking to a scheme and sticking to a system. The run game is getting life. And now because the run game is getting life, the receivers are starting to bode well with matchups in the play action scheme. So I think this just goes hands in hand, Luis Lopez. JJ's vision is elite, but the blocking up front has been much, much better.
Yep, facts, 100%. Way better than last year, especially to start the season.
Okay, you guys, I am not going to, because we're kind of behind, right? We're kind of behind. So I want to go down to the bottom, and then if I didn't read your guys' question, please resubmit them now that I'm at the bottom, and then I'll be able to address them then. So we do actually have a super chat that came in. Van City, I appreciate you, brother. Ray, here for you and the wife and the baby. Love you, brother. Do you have me memberships yet? Raider Nation for life. I am in the process of creating memberships. I really want to see what you guys are intrigued in and interested in. As far as memberships, would you guys like a members only live stream where I can bring you guys in? Maybe we can open up a panel and you guys could come on here and we can all talk with all the members, talk football, just really primary access. Maybe we can also do that. And I could do a film breakdown with you guys personally.
You should post the poll, like have them decide.
Yes. Yeah. And so because I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, you guys, we try to keep things a little bit different over here. But I really wanted almost like a film breakdown membership class where you guys can come in, we can sit here and watch film together. That way, when we come on the live show and the things that we're pointing out and the things that we're talking about, you're like, oh, okay, this is why we discussed that. This is how this makes sense. I think that would be really special. So Van City, I appreciate you, brother, for the donation. God bless you. God bless your wife and your kid, man. We're in it together, bro. We both got a baby on the way. So I appreciate it, man. And I hope to return the favor very, very soon. So I appreciate you very much, brother. Richard Line says he says exactly, Ray. I remember you saying that there's still some zone blocking, brother. Yeah. And you're not just completely a primarily power scheme. You're always, obviously you have to sprinkle in zone stretch schemes. That's not what I'm alluding to. I'm alluding to how the foundation last season was zone blocking sprinkled in with power. And this season, it's more power based blocking sprinkled in with zone. So that's really what I'm doing. Oh, Daniel Kim for the chair fund and the continued growth of the show.
Hey, he needed, man.
We are close, bro. This 1812, actually, you guys, this is a New Jersey case. So I had a computer chair and I got done with the live show with Pharaoh and I backed out and I turned to rotate and it knocked my jersey frame off of the wall and shattered it. So I had to go out and remake my jersey frame. So I brought the old 1812 Classic back because there's no broken jersey frames with this one. So that was on me, but we're gonna get a new chair. Demon says we took care of the offense this year. Next year's defense. Facts, 100%. GA Patriots pulled up. He said, "What's up, guys? What's good, bro? I appreciate you pulling up."
GA, appreciate you pulling up.
Is Waller playing? Yes, he is playing. So this is the first time, as Pharaoh said, this is the first time since week 2 we've got to see Hunter Renfrow.
Possibly. He is listed as questionable, I believe. He's listed as questionable, right? He's one of the few players that's listed as questionable.
Yep.
So we'll see, but all signs point to him playing along with Adams. I know Adams is dealing with like a flu, like there was a virus going on in the
It hit
Raiders
the
locker
whole
room.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, hit a few players, but hopefully we'll be able to see Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, and Waller all in the same field. We haven't seen that since week 2. So with
Mm.
the offense rolling the way it has, specifically the running game and the play action game, imagine all those players clicking all at the same time. Would be a good game to do it against a defense that gives up a lot of big plays. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
we'll see.
No facts, man. And Van City says, and I'm still waiting on my Raider Ray hoodie. Hey, that is actually coming, by the way. But having said that, my brother, I will wait until you and Pharaoh name this show to buy one of those. You guys are my favorite content show. Shout out to you,
Man,
bro. I love
appreciate
that.
that,
I
bro.
love that.
Appreciate that.
Hey, we're just continuing to work, man. Uh, brick by brick, man. We're gonna keep preaching that. Raphael with the super chat. He says, "What's up, Raider Ray and Pharaoh NFL? Salute from El Capitan Raphael. Much love and respect, brothers. Can't wait to collaborate with you guys very soon." Shout out to Raphael. Anybody that's not subscribed, go check out Raphael.
Yes,
Show him
sir.
some love. Raf, you always know that I'm here for you, bro. Anything that you ever need, just shoot me a message, and you know I'm always just one click away, brother. So I appreciate the donation. I appreciate the love and support, and I hope that everything is doing good with you.
Salute, Rap. Salute.
Raid the tape nation. What's good, Raid?
Appreciate you
Hey,
pulling up, brother.
yep. Appreciate you. And maybe we can, if you're interested in coming through, let us know. And maybe we can open that up to you. So if you'd be interested, let us know. Let's see here.
He said, what did he say? He said Waller gonna come in and mess up the offense.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
Hey, Raid, you know what? It's funny because I wish I had time to talk to you about Waller because he got a really strong stance on Darren Waller. He got a really strong stance. He was like, we should have traded Waller. That's kind of where he's coming from based off the fact that he's an aging guy. He just hit 30 and he's been dealing with injuries last couple years. That's the one thing that I won't deny is that the fact that Waller has been struggling with drops and injuries since last year.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. But that being said, Dave Z and Josh McDaniels, they couldn't help but give him an extension because it's a guy that they know that could man.
He changes what defenses play, right? Like when he's
Man,
in the
like
game, the defenses has to adjust for him on the field. So I know you might not get all these gaudy numbers and all these high statistics, 100-yard games and multiple touchdowns, but what you're getting is freeing up coverages for the other guys, Hunter, Devontae, Josh Jacobs. When you flex Waller out wide, like I mean, when you're taking already a loaded box and you're really simplifying, whether it's 21 personnel, 11 personnel, you're able to do a lot with Darren Waller. That's why he's so valuable. I know he's hurt, but even if you get an 80% Darren Waller out there on the field, an 80% Darren Waller is probably better than he's still probably up in the top 15. Let's just be honest, even at 80%. So
that's and another reason too. Another point I want to make is the fact that like if Adams, I'm not God forbid, like I don't want nothing to happen to him, but let's say if he misses a game for whatever reason, you would like to have a guy on Waller on the field where if forces those matchups,
exactly.
forces those doubles. If it's Adams and then everybody else, I'm kind of
because as soon as Adams goes, all those coverages start to open up and it benefits the defense. If Adams goes and you've got a Waller, all they did was shade those coverages over to Waller's side, and you're still getting similar looks.
And respect to Renfrow, I love his game. I think he's a good player, but he's not Waller.
No.
He doesn't have the same impact as a Waller or, in my opinion, obviously Adams. I'm not even going to mention him, but it's just not the same.
Man, I want to see this Ferrari going full speed. Hey, at least they're not driving it spotlight. They're not driving it stoplight to stoplight like we talked about 2 weeks ago. I think when Raid was on the show, we talked about how this is a Ferrari, and we made the analogy of like they're driving this sports car stoplight to stoplight. It's not opened up on a highway. They're not just letting it go. I think slowly but surely you're starting to see them catch a stride on the offensive side of the football. Josh Jacobs, play action, Darren Waller, Devontae, Hunter. The Ferrari it's slowly coming along. I know we don't like to say that, but that's just the fact of the matter right now.
GA says Waller has been struggling since Gruden left. He only produces for Chucky. But to be fair, you know what I mean? Obviously, he was given an opportunity and he turned his life around at the same time when he got to the Raiders. Like he was kind of in an upward trajectory and the Raiders made a right move. Shout out to whether it was John Gruden, and some people might say Greg Olson, whoever that was, to actually find Waller on a practice squad with the practice squad with the Ravens and we were able to get him to come out here to Las Vegas. But that being said, most of his production, obviously, I agree, but you're telling me that he wouldn't be productive anywhere else? I don't know. You don't think Andy Reid would
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no.
I mean,
No, no, no.
they have Kelsey, who's the best tight end, hands down. But what I'm saying is that he would be productive in other places too.
Mm.
You know, he's a good player. He's a great player.
D Menace, man. Shout out to you for the $10 super chat for the chair fund, brother. Bro, this Queen Elizabeth. What did you say before the show? This Queen Elizabeth?
I don't know. I say it's Queen Elizabeth's chair or something. I don't
Mhm.
know. I can't even remember. But
It is what it is, man. This B212 special, boy. It's a bad chair. No,
nah,
man. Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
it's funny because we clowning right now, but I already know you about to get like a dope ass chair too.
Oh
I
yeah,
already
no, it's happening. My back has been hitting on another level lately.
man, because when I got this chair, oh my
Yeah,
god,
look at you. You're all lean back and posted. I'm
I
like,
feel so comfortable. I could talk on here for hours. I could be like, hey, let's talk. What are we gonna
not
talk
me.
about?
I'm
You know what
looking
I
at the
mean?
clock. I'm like, bro, my back's got about
Man, I had to
50.
end lives because my back hurt. You know what I mean? Like my
Yeah,
back,
nah.
I'm like, I can't do this
Yeah,
no more.
yeah, we
My
can't be
ass.
doing that no more. Now, Van City, big facts, man. Having Waller in the field is going to make a difference. Whether or not he's effective or not, his presence just commands attention. Facts, bro. Facts. Richard Lyon says, I think if you had to trade someone, Waller is the best option to get some value in a trade. And if you are going to trade somebody that comes with a commodity, that comes with a high price tag, I would agree with this. He's going to command the most draft capital. He's going to be the player that you can move on from and maybe go out and get another superstar type of player. I just think moving forward, it's just best that we keep Darren Waller. We're such a microwave society that we want everything in 2 minutes, and it doesn't happen that way. Let Waller get healthy. Let this offensive weapon, let the vision that they had actually, let's see if it'll actually work. You know what I mean? You've really dealt with injuries, which is why you haven't seen the success. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. Let these guys be healthy and let them play consistently while they're healthy. And then let's see what we have as a product on the field. And if it's not what you envisioned and it's not what you set out for at the beginning of the offseason, then make your tinkerings there. But don't give up on this trio just yet, because they can be among the elite in the National Football League.
Yeah, man, 100%, man. I think Waller. I'm one of those fans. I'm frustrated with Waller, but I'm not gonna like down talk him and say like he's not a good player, or at the end of the day, like he is a big piece to this puzzle on offense. I mean, right now offensively we're hitting all cylinders. Imagine a guy like Waller. You know what I mean? Once he gets healthy, and that's the thing too. You know what I mean? I hear the arguments with Waller, and I understand them. And I agree to a certain extent, but in my opinion, I want to keep Waller. I want to keep a guy like Waller on offense because now you have an Adams and then you have a Waller. You have two, guys that will draw big time attention. And Renfro, you could sprinkle Renfro in there too, but I feel like Renfro is more of a complementary piece compared to a guy like Waller or Adams. That's just my opinion. But that being said, if it comes down to Josh Jacobs and Waller, and you had that choice, and you knew that Josh Jacobs was going to have the season that he's having now, and he continues to have this season, are you choosing Josh Jacobs or are you choosing Waller? I know it's a tough question. It's a tough question, but we're here to talk about it though.
Right. You're saying if it came down between the two based off of points?
If it came, because look, if you think about it, because that's what it is. That's what, because money wise, we've given Renfro an extension. We've given Waller an extension.
Yeah.
We've given Devontae Adams extension, Derek Carr, so on and so forth. But two of those players that I mentioned haven't been on the field.
Right.
Did we make a mistake by not giving, Josh Jacobs, or not picking up that 5th-year option, by not giving him a contract extension well ahead of time? I mean,
okay, so this has multiple layers. As far as, is it a mistake that we didn't pick up the 5th-year option? No. And I say that because if you don't get an extension done, the franchise tag is only $1.5 million more than what the 5th-year option was. So you're really not losing out too much there. And it doesn't make you have to get an extension done. You can just franchise tag him. And then there's other routes. You know what I mean? You could put there's also a deal out there where another team can make a deal, and if the Raiders go out there, and they have the opportunity to match the deal, and if they match the deal, then he has to sign with the Raiders. So there's ways around this. I would say that ultimately he's going to be franchise tagged, and you're only paying $1.5 million more. Did the Raiders make a mistake re-signing Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller with both having years remaining on their contract? Yes, they did. To make your point,
Mm.
hindsight going back, I think that they hold off on the Waller and the Hunter Renfrow contract. And I made a point last week on the show that if I could go back, say I was Dave Ziegler or Josh McDaniels, I would let these guys compete, and at the end of the season, you would assess the success that they had within your offensive system, and then go and re-sign them based off of there. I think that they had the idea that Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller were going to come in here and explode onto the scene and put up these gaudy numbers, and then their contracts would be almost too high that you can't retain them. So I think that they lock them up with the idea that, hey, these guys are really going to produce at a high level. And when you look at their contracts, it's going to be really affordable for the Raiders organization. So when you're talking about money and you're talking about contracts, there's a few different layers that you got to pull back.
Hindsight is 2020, man. I ain't gonna lie. At the time of this contract extensions, I was happy. I'm like, oh man, we
Yeah,
extended
me too.
Renfro. You know what I mean? Looking at McDaniel's past success with slot receivers, oh my God. We know the chemistry that him and Carr have. Renfro, Waller, of course. You know what I mean? One of the best tight ends in the league. You know what I mean? And you're making good points, man. I'm not gonna lie. You're making good points, but it's just.
But here's the thing, Ray. Like, are we putting up the most points with him, like without him this year? And did we win 6 straight games just because Waller was not a factor? You can make the factor that if Waller was in the game still, we could still be scoring the most points. And you could also make the argument that if he was in those games, the last 6, you could also still win those football games. I don't think Waller hurts your team. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't think he's not a factor. Yeah, what you're alluding to is that we're having success and we're able to win without him. But necessarily, I don't think that he's a person that also gains assets to your offense. Like we were talking about also with coverages and this and that. So do I think that we can still score the most points with Waller involved in the system? I do. Do I think that we still could have won 6 straight without Derek Carr? Because ultimately the anomaly that was last year, those 6 games, there was defensive stands. There was turnovers at the right time. Derek Carr made plays to Hunter Renfrow. There was still some plays that you could say it didn't have anything to do with Waller.
I understand where Raid is coming from, and salute to
No,
you,
I do
man.
too. Yeah.
Appreciate you coming through. I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
He has another comment down there too as well,
Okay. Let
where
me
he
check.
says that Waller had 2 years left on his contract. We could have waited, and I
Yeah.
understand
I
where
agree.
what he's trying to say is that like literally we could have used those resources to address the defense. You know what I mean? We could have bought us some time to address the defense, get better at other areas of our team instead of extending them, you know, a little bit early. Where you know Waller did have some question marks based off as of recently. Salute to you, D Menace. I appreciate you. So I get where you're coming from, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I wasn't when the Raiders gave him that contract. I wasn't mad at all, and Raid was like, nah. I remember you saying that you weren't too excited. You weren't really happy about the extension because you felt like they gave it too soon, and you know that it's a good point. It's a good point, but it's a lot of games left. If you're telling me if Waller tomorrow against the Saints, if he has 8 catches, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, are we going to be talking about Waller this and Waller that? We're going to be like, oh my God, this offense has awakened.
And then the offense starts to allude back to what we all hyped it up this offseason to be, right? If Darren Waller comes in here and starts clicking on all cylinders, I don't expect it fully tomorrow. I think he actually might have a better game than what a lot of people are saying. I don't think that there's a linebacker in the National Football League that can cover him. I know Demario Davis is a fantastic coverage linebacker. Darren Waller's on another level when it comes to route running. His physicality. I don't think that there's a linebacker. I think they're going to have to bracket him if they really want to find success. With that being said,
But if you remember, though, when we did play the Saints, a couple years ago, I think it was the first game in Allegiance. It was the
he
home
had a
opening
big
game.
game. He
Yeah,
had a big
and
game.
he had a big game. He had a big game on national televised. I think I don't. It might have been Monday Night Football, and he had like about 12 catches, over 100 yards, a couple of
Yep.
touchdowns or a touchdown or something like that. So he's had success against his defense. Now you add Adams, and now you add this run game. You know, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Well, and a play caller like Josh McDaniels, because Josh McDaniels has been in his bag.
It's coming along. The later the year goes, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's starting to look like what we talked about. Devontae, now defenses are going to have to pick their poison. As before, we came out predominantly just passing the ball a ton those first 3 weeks of the year, and teams were like, "All right, like I'm cool with that. Dropped everybody back in coverage. Chemistry wasn't there with the receivers. It wasn't the strength of the offense. Now you have an identity on the run game. You're able to stem things off of play action. You're getting your pieces back. Hunter Renfrow, dude, came in and had a sneaky good performance last week. Again, he's never going to blow you away with just these gaudy numbers, these big time receptions that are just like jaw dropping. He's going to be crucial on third down. He's going to be crucial at moving the chains and creating first downs. That's what Hunter Renfrow is in this offense, and Josh McDaniels uses him really well, a lot like Gruden did. Get a Darren Waller back involved when he's healthy. Devontae Adams. Look, I mean, this offense really does have an opportunity to turn into everything that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Luis Lopez says people seem to forget that Josh Jacobs wasn't producing. He was always hurt and missing a game here or there. I think we paid Waller because you could see Hawkinson's resetting the market along with Mark Andrews. Kind of like what we talked about.
Yeah, that's true about Josh Jacobs. We weren't. I don't think anybody were disappointed that the Raiders didn't pick up the 5th-year option or offer a contract, or we didn't know what we were going to get from Josh Jacobs, just based off the fact that he's played well at times, but at the same time he's been hurt too. He gets hurt, and and they went into the season with 5-6 running backs. So hopefully we'll see Josh Jacobs all the way through the season, but we do got 5-6 running backs on the roster because the Raiders for sure think that hey, running backs do get hurt at the end of the day. So they want a guy to be ready to come out and ball out.
And I know in the offseason, a lot of content creators were saying, hey, no, re-sign Waller, re-sign Renfrow when all those talks were coming up. And a lot of us were saying, hey, I would rather re-sign Waller, Renfrow, than give Josh Jacobs a big contract. We don't like to pay running backs because Josh McDaniels doesn't like to pay his backs. Like everybody, let's be real. I mean, there was a few people in there that was like, no, I think that we need to go out and re-sign Josh Jacobs. But like I said, hindsight, it's a tough one. You know what I mean? Because everybody was saying, no, like don't, because of what you just talked about, right? Josh Jacobs wasn't producing at that high level that we seen his rookie year. And I know I talked about it even personally. Now he proved me wrong, but on my live show months ago, I was saying, hey, Josh Jacobs is one of those guys who's in a contract season, and have buyers beware when it came with Josh Jacobs, because he might go out here and ball.
I will say though, Josh Jacobs did help carry the offense last year in that late season run. He was the guy that was lit again.
Yeah.
Once again, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Like a lot of people will talk about Josh Jacobs, this, Josh Jacobs, that. But last season, if you guys remember, when we went on a run to make the playoffs, he was the guy that was carrying the offense. We lost Ruggs. We're offensively, we were kind of limited as far as receiving options. I mean, salute to Zay Jones by getting the bag with the Jaguars. But hey, if he was our number one receiver or anybody's number one receiver, that's not something that
that dude got $10 million a year, bro. Ain't that
wild? What I mean?
That's
wild. I heard he's playing pretty solid. He's solid with
he is.
the Jaguars.
He's a good, hardworking wide receiver. He's not elite or anything like that, but
exactly.
If you want a good, consistent two, or a guy that you can sprinkle in among the twos, he's a good ride out.
Yeah.
Ray, Renfro's numbers are on McDaniels. If he would have started running Jacobs sooner, Renfro's concussion pass should have never been thrown. Hindsight. We say it a lot over here, right? Hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Van City, you guys, if Waller can get his game back, Devontae and D-Wall will be nothing short of terrifying. Facts, 100%. There's a lot of games left, and we still don't have a defensive tackle because of Waller's extension. I wouldn't necessarily say that's because of Waller's extension. You know what I mean? Who's on the market? Who's available to trade? What is their contract extensions? Again, you guys, there's layers to this whole process. And if you go to make a trade, don't just go out and get anybody. Don't just go out and just make a move to make a move because you think it's a need. If you go out and make a move, especially for a premier defensive tackle, make sure it's a guy that you're looking to pay $15, $16, $17 million a year, and that you're betting on is going to be around here for the foreseeable future. Because if you go out and sign another, look, let's put it this way. Between Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and if you go get a premier defensive tackle, you're going to be talking about $60 million a year wrapped up in 3 positions on the defensive line. That's a lot of money. And then you got to really bang on those draft picks. You know what I mean? Sideline to sideline linebacker that I'd like to see, whether in the first or second round. DBs. There's a lot of building that has to go on this defensive side. DeMarcus Webb says, yeah, Raider fans flip-flop a lot. Folks wanted Jacobs gone until the last 4 games last season. depends what day it is. Renfro after the Cardinals game, Waller after the Cowboys. It's week to
Yeah,
week,
we
right?
do. We
Yeah,
we
yeah, we
we
do.
do. I mean, I feel like NFL fans in general, they kind of like, but you could say the Raider fans were because we've seen everything. I
Right.
think we've got like, I'm not trying to be a doctor here and diagnose us, but I think as fans, we've seen every type of dysfunction, losing. So it's to the point where like we see anything that goes wrong, we're quick to hop on it and be like, man, this dude's
Or we
garbage.
see
This
what's on
dude,
the field and we can almost taste it, right? We're like this
yeah.
close. We're
I
not
don't,
far.
yeah. I'm not with the the Waller is doing things on purpose,
No, I'm not
and
with that at
he's
all.
trying to not play, and he's over here with his WNBA girlfriend and all that type of stuff. It's just
No,
all I'm talking about was what's happening on the football
right. That
field,
knows,
his
bro.
production and his
Yeah.
injuries and stuff like that. And I think that's what Raider Tape is talking about too. And yeah, I'm with you, Ray. I didn't want to extend Jacobs or Waller yet.
Yep.
They they both been injured, haven't shown us about 2 years. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And I'll be honest, I wanted to re-sign Darren Waller just based off of what I was saying before, because when you look at the offense on paper, right? Jacobs, Renfro, Devontae, and we were alluding to the coverages. It's not always necessarily the money price for production, because the money price is market value for that position. And I think that if they were going to resign him, they resign him at a good time, because Mark Andrews, all those tight ends that are due for a contract, they're really going to reset the market. And if you would have waited to resign Darren Waller, you would have paid him even more than what you're paying him already. So, no, I agree with you, bro. There was a time I didn't want to re-sign Josh Jacobs. I wanted him to just go out there and prove it, and then slap on a franchise tag, which it looks like that's what's going to happen. Um, but yeah, no, I agree, man. Look, they both haven't shown us consistent production over 2 years. Now they've shown us
Mhm.
production, just not consistently.
But it's gonna be hard. Well, at the end of the season, and Josh Jacobs has an MVP type season because right now he is the MVP of the Raiders. And I want to ask you this too, because I asked this earlier. In today's NFL, do you think a running back could win the MVP in today's NFL?
It'd have to be something ridiculous. Like
Something
Josh has to go
spectacular.
out there and run for 2,000.
If Adrian
You know,
Peterson didn't win a MVP,
exactly. Exactly. It's always the NFL is always going to gear it towards a quarterback,
yeah,
or
whoever
something like that. So
whoever's the best quarterback, yeah,
that's going to be tough. But if you get Josh Jacobs on a 1,700-yard season and 18 touchdowns, that $8.5 million, $9.5 million franchise tag looks pretty good.
yeah, facts, 100%. I don't know if Josh Jacobs wants to play on that. I think he give him a contract. He played well. If he played well, he deserves a contract. I'm all
You
for
think
that.
You think Mac Hollins gets more targets?
I don't know about targets, but I think that we should definitely attack this secondary with. We need to take our shots because if you notice when Derek Carr takes shots down the field, a lot of it has been not Mark, but Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is kind of like he's been the guy like taking those downfield shots. Obviously, Devontae Adams has his fair share, but Mac Hollins, starting with that Titans game, has been getting a lot of deep shots. And against this secondary that gives up a lot of big plays, you should look out for that. And I'm thinking, in my opinion, I think that with the way Josh Jacobs is coming into this game rolling, I'm thinking that Saints are going to try to stop the run. They're early on, they're going to try to take the run away, and they're going to try to see if Derek Carr could win this game for him and try to pressure Derek Carr, try to force him into throws that he or spots that he doesn't want to go. But that's easier said than done when you're going against Adams and Waller. If they're all healthy, man, like Derek Carr, man, like he could have a big game. We'll see.
No, facts, man. And you guys are dropping some heat questions. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, waiting on Josh Jacobs to rip these Saints a new one. Man, have fun at that game. That's going to be a fun game to go to, bro. Um, DeMarcus, we have to let this team develop. It's tough. I'm ready for everything to gel right now, but I'm starting to trust McDaniels more. Waller and Renfro will be there. It's coming along. It's going to be a process.
Mm-hmm.
Raider Lifer says, just subscribe. Respect to you, Raider Lifer.
Yes,
I appreciate
sir.
you subscribing, man. Subscribe to both of our channels. We do a weekly show on both of our channels. So go over, subscribe to Pharaoh, and subscribe to Raider Ray. Also go subscribe to Raid the Tape. Also does really good material. I think that you really like him. I'm sure you already subscribed, but
Mm-hmm.
just drop over there if you haven't. We have two young defensive tackles, Farrell Butler. Now we moved Hankins. Let's see what we have with them with more snaps for both. And also be on the lookout if the Raiders do decide to go make a move, you know.
Yeah.
As far as Farrell and Butler, I do think of the two, Neil Farrell is the one that I want to give more reps to.
Yeah.
He has gotten reps in the last few games. Last week against the Texans, did a really good job of shooting the gap, making Pierce make a cutback lane, and he ran into a pile of linebackers. So Neil Farrell is starting to produce when it comes to run defense, which is why I think Jonathan Hankins is expendable, not just because of Neil Farrell, but because of Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings has really merged into that nose tackle space eater for the Raiders defense,
Yeah.
and I think he's definitely outperformed his contract. But let's
And
see.
I don't know. I don't know if we talked about this enough. I mean, with Hankins being moved, do you feel like it was a good move? Because I was thinking about it too. I'm like, you know what? A 6th-round pick is a 6th-round pick. And, at first my initial reaction was like, oh, I like it. It's a guy that, they literally waited until like the end of free agency, like well into free agency to sign. It's a veteran guy. You know what I mean? How many years does he have left in the league? Who knows? And he wasn't in the future plans, and they want to give more snaps to Farrell, which makes sense. But on the other hand is that, Hankins is a good locker room guy. You know what I mean? You give up like a guy that, the veteran presence, a good locker room guy. Do you think that can mess up the chemistry? Do you think that he's not that good or that big of a player in that locker room, you think?
It's not that he's not that good. What I think, Farrell, is you have a guy who's 30 who only lasted a year in Patrick Graham's scheme and system. Anyways, you go out, you get a 6th-round draft pick for a guy who's not getting a lot of snaps. He's not getting a lot of playing time, and what it does for the locker room, actually, yeah, these guys really like him, and they've created a bond with him. I'm not saying that there's any love lost there, like there's not any feelings that are hurt there. What it does say is to these young guys, the Matthew Butler, the Andrew Billings, the Neil Farrell, the Kendall Vickers, what it says is, hey, we trust what we've seen on film from you guys. Now we're going to give you an opportunity. You know what I mean? We're going to move on from the veteran that's been plugged into our defense, and we're going to give you guys an opportunity to go out here and earn more reps. So overall, I like the move because let's be honest, Jonathan Hankins wasn't going to be back here next year. Let's just keep it a bug. And you go out there and get a 6th-round draft pick. Look what we've been able to do with late-round draft picks in recent history.
Mm-hmm.
Look no further than Hunter Renfrow, Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs, just to name a few. You know what I mean? So that could be extremely valuable because you never know with that 6th-round pick what you're going to be capable of getting. And even if you don't land, you know what I mean? You're at least given an opportunity to go out there and add a player to the roster. So overall, Jonathan Hankins does not move the needle on this defense for me by any stretch of imagination. I think Andrew Billings has won that job over 3 times over, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah. I wasn't looking at it from a skill set standpoint. I was looking at it from like
locker room.
the other side to it, the locker
Right.
room. You know what I mean? Was it that big of a pick to pick up to? Yeah, obviously it was a shrewd move, is a smart move, but sometimes shrewd and smart moves as far as like the analytics and picks. Sometimes you got to look at the other side of it. How's it going to affect the locker room? How is it going to translate? How is it going to go over the locker room?
That's not like losing a Max. That's not like losing a Derek. That's not like losing a Devontae.
I get that.
You know what I mean? So I think what it does say is like, hey, you young guys, we believe in you. And now you're giving the mantle's getting handed over to you. And so it gives these guys an opportunity to go out there and earn it. I think that the defense will actually thrive from it, if you want my honest opinion.
Yeah. And I'm having this conversation because I want people to hear this because it's the truth.
It is true. It's I know we might touch on this later, but I want Kamara to know he played us. His sore body and the scoreboard will keep his mouth shut before he talks anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if you've.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, I heard what he said.
Yeah.
He's got to say that, right? He's the leader of the defense. They're 2-5. Demario Davis had that talk with the team. Look, Kamara's got to say this stuff. He's gonna. The thing about the Raiders' defense, run defense, they're gonna hit you in the mouth. Like you're gonna know that you played them. Like they're gonna come downhill and they're gonna hit you. So Kamara can say what he wants, and even if he has a big game, he's gonna have to earn every bit of it. So he has to say that. None of that stuff does anything to me, man. Ray the Tape says, question about the defense. How Patrick Graham defense bottom 10 his first year with the Giants, but not Raiders. Our offense is better. That's why they say his defense was bad his second year with the Giants. With top 10 with Giants first year. You wanna address it?
So what he's saying that the first year Patrick Graham coached the Giants defense, they were bottom 10.
Right.
But not the Raiders. And he's making a point saying that our offense is better. So that's why, they say his defense was bad his second year with the Giants. That's a good point. You know what I mean? Because part of part of playing good football is playing complementary football. And if your offense is always putting defensive in bad situations, it's gonna affect them after a while. You know what I mean? It's gonna show in the stats, and that's something that you can't people can't really. You got to really watch football and understand like what's going on to really understand like, hey, look, the offense has to have the ball a certain amount of time. They have to hold the ball a little bit to give some rest to the defense. They got to be able to run the football. They got to be able to score some points. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't think I agree with this. I don't think we should have the same expectations of the Raiders defense that we have for the offense. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I don't think that we should have the same expectations for the Raiders offense and the Raiders defense. We shouldn't have it. I think, but I will say this though. I will say this. If we have a lead, if we're up, then it's Max Crosby time. It's Chandler Jones time. Those guys got to step up. I want to see that. If they're not stepping up, then hey, you know what I mean? That's on the players. You know, because that's where our best players are at. They're the Max Crosby's, the Chandler Jones. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like their defense was kind of built for, was with to play with the lead. So when you look at games like the Arizona Cardinals when they're up 20-0, and where was the defense then? But then you could also say the offense didn't do their part. They're going three and out, going three and out. You know what I mean? And
It's
they're not.
been collectively a team thing. I would say when you're looking at it from like a financial aspect, for us to be 32nd to 30th when it comes to money invested on the defense, you can almost even make a point that some of those guys are outplaying their contracts. Rock Ya-Sin is definitely outplaying his contract. Nate Hobbs still on his rookie deal, definitely outplaying his contract. Deron Harmon playing good football right now. Denzel Perryman's making like $1.5 million a year. Max Crosby's balling out. He's working with less. And I think really the big critique's going to come on Patrick Graham after the next year. And I know we're living in the moment right now, and I take it as we're on week 8. So I'm assessing this week 8 football team to not give Patrick Graham any type of excuses, so to say. But he is working with less. Not necessarily. I know guys on the back end of that New York Giants defense. He had some decent names back there that kind of fit his scheme and system, probably even more than what he's dealing with right now.
I mean, a guy like Jabril Peppers we've heard rumors
Right, right, right.
that the Raiders are interested in trading for him. You know what I mean? So it's a guy that he's comfortable playing with. Now, is it like a big time move where I'm going to be super excited about? You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same as Smith. Nah, not at all. But I think that the offense is definitely. I agree that the offense should have the expectations should be with the offense. And but at the end of the day, they got to do their. I feel like the defense. Do you feel like the defense at best can play? And I asked Ray this too, and he kind of gave me like he didn't really go with he didn't agree that the Raiders defense were going to do any. They're going to be giving up a lot of big plays this year. I kind of was asking, are they a defense that can at least at best be a bend but don't break defense?
I do believe that. Look at
If
this
they
point.
figure it out, if they figure it out somehow, some way,
No,
they're
no.
a bend but don't break.
Look at it for these first 8 weeks. Can you name even off the top, like on one hand, can you name the amount of plays that teams are taking deep shots and they're getting behind the second level of this defense and getting behind the safeties? No, really over the top, like on the back half of the defense, when it comes to limiting really big plays, as far as for touchdowns for points, they're actually not doing terrible. You know what I mean? They're not letting too many teams get behind them. Now they have let up big receptions over the middle across the field, and a lot of that had to do with communication, switching, running different concepts. Kind of what we alluded to earlier, showing a cover 3, switching to cover 4. Showing cover 2, switching to a cover 2 man. Like, I mean, they were doing a lot of stuff. So as far as letting up huge chunk plays behind the safeties, I don't think that they've really done a bad job. I think that they can play that bend don't break style, and I think we've seen a lot of that actually last week against the Texans. They moved the ball, but in the red zone on both sides of the football, both sides got more efficient when it came to either red zone defense and red zone offense.
But see, the thing is, though, part of playing that bend but don't break defense is you got to hold teams to field goals, and the Raiders in the red zone this year have been terrible.
No, they
Like
have. They
The
have.
last time I
That's what
checked,
I was
it's like
saying. Last week against the Texans, they definitely improved upon that. They forced them to kick more field goals. I think
mhm,
that they were 1 for 3 in defensive red zone. Like they let up 1 touchdown and stopped 2. So I mean that, and then also led to a missed field goal. So there was subtle improvements. They're nowhere near where they need to be, but I do think over the course of the season, Patrick Graham is going to make adjustments to really fit this. He knows what they have on defense, right? They're not going to be this top 10 defense this season. It's just not going to happen. The talent isn't there. They've been beat up on the back end of the defense. There is no push on the interior of the defensive line. You're dealing with a lot of linebackers that can't cover. They're good run
mhm,
defenders, but they can't cover. So our
yeah,
expectations need to be lowered, but they
yeah,
need to find a scheme and a philosophy that fit them. And I think tightening up in the red zone and having identity and stopping the run, that's where you're going to find your bread and butter. You're not
yeah,
going to come out here and cover all levels. You're not going to be
yeah,
a top 10 coverage and top 10 run defense, not with this roster right now. So
yeah.
if they can play aggressive in the run defense and if they can clean up the red zone defense percentage numbers, I think we're going to be okay.
And I think, like I said, hindsight is 2020. But if you ask the Raiders front office if Divine Diablo and Trayvon Moehrig was going to play like this, I think they would probably been a little bit more aggressive with the Honey Badger or some other top safety in the market,
Right.
or because they, if you, to be honest with you, they were, if a lot of rumors in free agency, they were in a lot of talks with all these free agents. They didn't end up getting them because the price wasn't right, but you know, Devon Diablo is another guy like that, a young player that they bet on was going to step up, but hasn't stepped up.
Has it.
Two pieces on the defensive side of the ball that, at two levels of the defense, secondary and linebacking core. They haven't taken the next step, but we'll see, man. It's a lot of games left. We'll see.
Van City says tomorrow's going to decide if we make a solid trade or not. I like where he's going with this, by the way. We go 2-5, Ziegler will try to move out. We go 3-4, we're right back in this thing and we'll bring someone in. If you go 3-4 and you really realize, hey, look, we got a stretch to go out here and make a move, I agree, Van. I think it, not that it's going to guarantee us to go make a big move, but I do think that Dave Ziegler, if we come away tomorrow with a win and we're right back in this, I think that they go out and get what they need to at least compete this season. Because I don't necessarily think they're far away. Anybody not subscribed to Ray, Farrow, and Prez, get it, dog on it. Get on it, dog on it. Okay, yeah, I agree. I like it, Patriot.
Appreciate you, GA. Always on support, man.
Here's
Appreciate
Prez's link. Anybody not subscribed to Prez? Hey, if you guys can,
it.
moderators, also drop one for Ray the tape so we can send some people his way. There's
Oh,
50.
they've been dropping
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There's 50 of you guys in the chat, man. We should have 50 likes. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys pulling up and showing love and support. If you guys have questions that we haven't addressed yet, drop them down in the comments section below. We're going to allude to everything that you guys want to know before we really wrap this show up. I think it's been a great show so far. So if you guys want it to keep going, keep dropping comments and we'll stay on for a little bit longer. But I do want to say, hey, go over to Pharaoh NFL, subscribe to his channel, subscribe to Raider Ray. We do a weekly live show for those who are here for the first time, and go support other content creators, Prez, Pharaoh, everybody out there doing their thing, man. So
Yes,
we
sir.
appreciate it. Raid says defense has been clutch though late. Offense sold in a lot of games.
Yeah,
And look, you can make the argument that the defense has given the offense every opportunity to go down and score and win the football game.
that's true.
Right?
KC
Right?
game,
So
as recently as a KC game, if you think about it, we had the ball late to take the lead, game over. You know what I mean? If Devontae Adams catches the ball on 3rd and 1, we had the first down in full field goal range. We all, at that point, you give the ball to Josh Jacobs, run the clock down, boom, we're winning that game. Or, on 4th and 1, Devontae Adams is running into each other. So the offensive side has definitely had growing pains, but it does seem like they're getting better. The offense is getting better. They're finding their rhythm. Their identity right now on offense is running the football and working off that.
that's why I was saying, like, dude, it might sound, I know it might get some heat and kickback for it, but it's maybe not that crazy to say that this defense has maybe even overproduced because it's had areas of big issues, right, where they don't look very good. But when you look at the talent, you look at the deficiencies, you look at the injuries and what PG is really working with right now, and also a mix of guys that are really still on that verge of cleaning out Gus Bradley's guys entirely, plugging in guys that are specifically in his scheme. You can make the argument that guys that he brought in for his scheme in particular have really done a phenomenal job. Blake Martinez has come in and played really good in run defense. Rock Ya-Sin has been really good in man coverage. Deron Harmon, back end guy who's been able to come away with a lot of interception. So Patrick Graham's guys have done a decent job. I'm curious to see next year, once we get that whole draft, maybe in the first round, go get a premier side to side, sideline to sideline linebacker. Really a difference maker. Maybe the Raiders version of a Roquan Smith. I would love to finally see that, or an interior pass rush on the defensive side of the ball. There's still a lot that we could do, man. So Florida Boy says, we stop having corners play 8 yards, play off 8 yards of man coverage. I want to see press if we're going to run this man. And look, when you run man coverage, just to give you like what I look for on film, when you run man coverages, is you don't want all your DBs up on the line of scrimmage. You don't. That when you play man coverage, you have to have your defensive backs playing on different levels. So if I'm an outside corner and Farrow's lined up in the nickel, I have to be off of my wide receiver farther than Farrow. Farrow has to be involved up close to the line of scrimmage. Why? Why is because when you see those concepts of rub routes, when you get defensive backs running into each other and they create separation, and that's when those big chunk plays happen, you have to create space. So when we call a switch, and I call a switch to Farrow, hey, my guy's going inside, your guy's bumping outside, we have that space between each other. That way we can work and the play doesn't break down. When you get everybody up to the line of scrimmage and just play solid press man coverage, that's when a lot of big plays. And if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm going to be creating rub routes. I'm going to get guys confused, get guys beat off the line of scrimmage. The list goes on and on. So
it's like strategy, technique,
it's a game within the game.
And a communication too as well. You're gonna switch off players too as well. Like Jaron Harmon said in his little weekly presser, like I think it was on Thursday or something like that. He was talking about how like he wanted a successful, defense, especially in this defense, is to have a loud defense. So that means a lot of people talking, a lot of people communicating, because there are going to be a lot of switches. There are going to be a lot of adjustments within the game. So I agree with that 100%, man.
I appreciate you, Raider Lifer. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you pulling up. Appreciate everybody pulling up. If you haven't liked the video, make sure to like the video, man. The algorithm is very real. We really appreciate anybody that likes the video, because in order for us to keep coming back with more content, we need your support. So make sure to like the video. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe to not just Ray channel, my channel as well. So because we do a weekly show. It's going to be 1 week it's on my channel. Obviously this week it's on his channel. So we go back and forth. So you want to make sure you're subscribed to both, to watch us both talk football. And man, we love doing this. So we want to keep talking to y'all. So make sure to hit the like button, and also subscribe. And Raid has a
Raid says, 2 defensive touchdowns. When was the last time we done that? That's what I'm alluding to as well. You know what I mean?
Hey, guess what? Hey, shout out to Jaron Harmon. He's been the
Amik
guy.
Robertson.
Amik Robinson, shout out to him. But who forced the fumble to
exactly. No, Daron Harmon is that. That's why he reminds me of that Reggie Nelson role, bro. He really does. What did he do really good? He got up there, created fumbles with tackling. He big time moments, got the interception. Daron Harmon is that veteran safety for me that reminds me of Reggie Nelson. Daniel Kim says, is there a CB that you'd sign or trade for? It's hard. I know everybody wants to talk about the Washington Commanders corner, but dude, he comes with a really, really big price tag. I'm not looking to pay any type of DB like that, specifically with the scheme that we run. Not right now. I think Rock has performed good. Nate Hobbs, you have 2 foundational pieces. I don't think Anthony Averett's going to be back. But right now, if you're going to go make a trade, do you have anybody on your mind? I would say,
I remember early on you sent me a link. It was a cornerback for the Jets.
Yep, Bryce Hall.
You said Bryce Hall. I know William.
That one I'm not that big on. I'm really not. I think honestly, if you want to give up a late round draft pick and just take a flyer on a guy and not trade for somebody that has a big contract, maybe go get a CJ Henderson. Maybe go give up a 6th round draft pick, 7th round draft pick, because he has moved around. It's not going to cost a lot. So I'd say give up maybe even a conditional 7th. You know what I mean? Just something low and go get a guy that could boom or bust.
Damn, it makes you think though, man. Just thinking back to the offseason, earlier in the offseason when we're going after players. One of those players was Colts cornerback, the guy,
Stephon Gilmore,
former defensive player, Stephon Gilmore. Imagine if he was on this team, because that was a guy that they were literally going after.
What about the other one from the New York Giants?
Oh yeah, James Bradbury. Whew.
He's balling out of
He's
control right now
he
for
is
Philly.
balling. He's balling out. Him and the other corner over there, they're balling out.
And James Bradbury on my channel, I was big on going out and getting James
Yes,
Bradbury.
sir.
I said
Especially
he's not perfect, but he's a plug and play in this defense right away.
exactly.
If
Facts.
offense keeps going and the defense stays clutch, I'd be happy with that. Right? We have to like settle our expectations instead of Patrick Graham is going to be this top 10 coordinator year one. Let's just work with what we got. And what we got right now, the defense is putting us in a position to succeed. Let's continue to click on offense. Let's get our offense going, consistently converting in the red zone. And the more that our offense can convert and score points in the red zone, we already have the number one scoring offense in the league when it comes to point percentages with possessions. So if you can go out here and start converting on more red zone efficiency, running up those points a little bit, it allows this defense to not play with such a small lead, which is when really Patrick Graham can really open up that defensive playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Facts, Ray. Our defense is definitely better than advertised. Yeah. They're not where they need to be, but they're not completely god awful.
Ray made a good point here because I remember this too. That's what happened to Morg when he played at press inside against Texans.
Mhm.
I think he's talking about that touchdown play
Yep, he
where
is. Yeah,
where Bills threw a touchdown. I think he's on a 15, 20-yard line, and they ran like a little concept where literally they ran into each other and they couldn't get over. And rest
this
is
is what
history.
we're
They scored a
this is
touchdown.
what we're
Yep.
talking about. This is why
Mhm.
it's so important to watch film, y'all. It's so easy to critique a team when you don't click and put the film on, but when you put the film on and you can see how guys are lined up, you can see where the communication broke down. That's why when you hear players say, hey, our mistakes are correctable, it's because it's little nuances in the game like that. It's rub routes, it's communications, it's knowing when to switch. There's a lot of games within the games, man. Raid the tape says Hardman has been a magnet to the ball. Facts, Raid. Facts.
Mhm.
I'd like to see the middle pass rush improve, but other than that, I like what our defense is doing. Yeah, they're developing. It's like the whole team. You guys really the Raiders' losses and wins have collectively been a team unit, which has been nice to see. Like it's a team growing and learning together. It's not just like, oh, Raiders offense is really clicking, but our defense is just god awful. Or it's not, hey,
Yeah.
our offense is just god awful, but our defense is just balling. Really,
Yeah.
it's been both sides of the football, and they're growing together.
Yep. And it's funny too. Bilal, I seen a Bilal Nichols sighting last game. He was getting some pressure in that game too as well.
Yep.
So if we can continue to build off that for sure, 100%. Like, man, this is a good time. This is a good time to get better in this part, especially
No,
when we need
I agree,
wins.
bro.
We need to make a run. This is a good time to get better.
Do you see them going after Payne? I mean, they could, but what do you have to give up, and what are you going to have to pay Payne? That's my only issue. I really, you guys, I don't expect a blockbuster trade. I'd expect, honestly, if they have their eyes on an interior pass rusher, it'd probably be coming out of the draft, and they're going to get a young, talented interior pass rusher. They're going to go get a sideline to sideline linebacker, and they're going to keep those investments down on a rookie deal to free up the cap. I mean, Dave Ziegler has shown this over the course of a multitude of years, right? They're going to build this defense through the draft, and then those guys are going to come up on contracts, and then they're going to rinse, wash, and repeat.
Is he another expiring deal?
Yeah,
Is
he
he?
is. He
Yeah.
is.
See. So this is another thing too we talked about earlier. It's like Dave Z has to make a decision. Does he really want to sign a player that he could easily sign in free agency? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Dave Z didn't come here to win a Super Bowl this year. I mean, obviously they're gonna try to win, but
It's a
they
3-year window.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if they know they can get a guy without giving any draft picks, it's there's some room to make some moves, but then at the end of the day, how high what is their limit? You know what I mean? What's the ceiling on what they want to give up? So we'll see.
Honestly, I honestly don't see them giving up more than a 3rd-round draft pick for somebody, and we're talking about a big-time player because you have to re-sign them. So if we give up anything for a big deal, it's going to be a 3rd. I don't see us giving up a 1st and a 2nd. I think there's too many holes on the defense that you have to fill next year with expiring contracts that you're going to really have to hold on to those draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, man, look, fantastic show, Nation. I appreciate everybody that pulled up. I thought tonight was a really, really good conversation. Pharaoh, thank you for joining me, brother.
Yes, sir.
Everybody in the chat, man, run up the chat, likes, go subscribe to Raid, Pharaoh, myself, Prez. Go subscribe to everybody, man. Show some love. Because this show, we do have split live shows. So Tuesday's breakdown will be done on my show this week, And then later on in the show that week will be on Pharaoh's channel. So make sure you're subscribed to both. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you for all the super chats. It goes to my 1812 replacement. It's going to be a sad day when that gets replaced. But we're going to move
Man,
on that.
you're gonna have the biggest smile on your face when you
I'm going to be
replace that
so happy,
chair.
bro.
Oh my god, you're gonna be leaning back like this. Watch, you're gonna be
Yeah, I'm
leaning
about to
back
be
like
like
this.
chilling, bro.
Man, no,
But
but you're
no,
gonna get
man.
it soon.
Hey, but yeah, great show, guys. Thank you guys for all tuning up, spending your evening with us, man. I'm gonna go watch the fights with my wife. Hopefully, Anderson Silva can put some hands on this Jake Paul kid tonight. That's what I'm looking forward to. So,
I don't
so
know.
everybody, man, I appreciate you, Pharaoh. You got any closing statements before we bounce out of here?
Nah, like, hey, just building off what you just said, man. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Me myself, I'm trying to get to 1K. I'm right around the corner. I'm
It's close,
literally
y'all.
like at not 900 or something like that, or close to it. So I'm literally there. So hey, if anybody hasn't subscribed, make sure to go to my channel, Pharaoh NFL, PHAROAH NFL, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I've been dropping content and more to come too. There's gonna be some upgrades. Y'all gonna see it. And I take your input, you know what I mean? Like if you guys leave comments, you guys have any ideas, I take your input very seriously. So be on the lookout and make sure to subscribe and subscribe to all the Raider content creators, including my guy Raider Ray. Like he just said, we're here, we're doing this. It's a weekly show that we do. We switch off channels, so you want to make sure you subscribe to both. And man, I'm excited, man, for the game tomorrow. Like, hey, I'm obviously gonna be taking the Raiders for the win. You know what I mean? I'm taking the Raiders. I feel like it's gonna be a high scoring game. It's probably I think I predicted a score of 35-28 was
Yep.
my final score. So,
I had
but hey,
34-31.
I'll
So
take
we're
a
up there.
blowout too. I'll take a blowout too. Another
I'll take
defensive
it.
touchdown. I'll take that too. Hey, at the end of the day, like I don't care if I'm wrong. I just want the Raiders to be like to win. Basically, that's the only thing I want, man. At the end of the day
No,
on Sundays.
facts, man. So, hey, closing segments tonight, man. Thank you guys for all tuning in, man. Hit the like button on the way out. And when this video is over, make sure you head over to the comment section, comment on it. It really helps us. It really goes a long way. But Raider Nation, God bless all of you. We love the support. Tomorrow we got a match up against the Saints. And you know how Al Davis always said, man, just win, baby.
Peace.